This week, our discourse will focus on topics related to reporting, disclosure, and financial analysis. Our primary concentration will be on the reporting entity and how and when individual fund statements should be consolidated into the government-wide statements. A government-wide statement is known as the CAFR, or the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. Your established wisdom about the major fund types maintained by governments will boost your comprehension for this week's topics. During the week, we will also discuss pensions and government funds. Do not forsake your review of this week's learning objectives and outcomes. Why do we have an issue with reporting entities? Mainly for two reasons. First, an organization's legal entity can differ from its economic form or structure. And second, because of the composition of the reporting entity. Identifying the primary government and its component units is essential in our analysis. A primary government is any state government, general purpose local governments, for example, counties, cities, towns, and villages, or a special purpose state or local government, such as school districts or hospital districts. Again, in your reading, recall the definition of a reporting entity. A reporting entity is an oversight unit and all of its component units, combined in the financial statements per the requirements of GASB Statement Number 14. Special purpose government must have a separately elected governing body. A special purpose government must also be legally separate from other primary governments and be fiscally independent of other governments. A special purpose government must also have authority to determine its budget, levy taxes, and issue bonds. Let's look at a scenario, which is typically an example of most state and local governments. Your state in which you reside established a state housing authority to finance construction of low-income housing. The housing authority, which is state incorporated, is governed, overseen by an independent board of directors, the members of which are appointed by the governor. Imagine you are one of these appointed board members who can only be removed for cause. You and your board of directors have complete control over the housing authority's operations. A director for the housing authority is hired by the board and reports to the board. The director cannot be removed by the governor. Although the state constitution limits the state to 2 million bonds outstanding, the housing authority issued $970 million in bonds to finance construction projects. Also, in earlier years, the housing authority issued debt that was backed by the taxing power of the state. And recall in our previous discussions, these type of bonds are known as moral obligation debt. The newly issued bonds, however, are revenue bonds. The housing authority uses the proceeds of the debt to make loans to finance housing construction. Debt is serviced from monies received in repayment of loans made by the authority. Questions. Do you believe the state should include the authority in its reporting entity? If so, how? Justify your answer using some of the GASB financial reporting entity criteria that we mentioned earlier. So what is your verdict? The authority is a separate legal entity, but it does not have a popular elected governing body. Because the governor appoints the board, the authority is a potential component unit. Because the state backs the older bond issues, the state has a potential financial burden. Therefore, the authority is a component unit. In addition, because the board of the primary government and the component unit are not substantially the same, and because the component unit does not provide its services entirely to the primary government, this is a component unit that should be discretely presented in the comprehensive annual financial report. Continue to review the criteria for presentation of component units. Presented here is a flow chart set forth by the GASB statement, which will augment your evaluation of component units.